Ba nga?
Good afternoon. Can you hear me well?
Yes, I can hear you well.
Okay, great. Welcome to B2. My name is Jessa and I'm your moderator for today.
Okay.
What is your name?
My name is Trix.
Nice to meet you, Trick. So, how are you today?
I am pretty good.
That's great. Okay, so Tricks, for today's class, we'll be having TOEIC. So, do you know something about TOEIC?
I have heard of it before, but I have never taken the test.
Okay, so do you want some information about it?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Okay, so TOEIC, as you already know, I think, is the test of English for international communication, and it's an international standardized test for English language proficiency. Of English language proficiency, rather, for non native speakers. Now, it's intentionally designed to measure the everyday English skills of people working in an international environment. Now, the speaking section of a TOEIC takes approximately 20 minutes to complete, and you'll be asked 11 speaking questions. Now, different types of speaking skills are evaluated, including pronunciation, intonation, grammar, vocabulary, content, and cohesion. Do you understand?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, great. Now, in our class today, there are two activities. First is responding to questions, and second, expressing opinions. Now, do you see my screen?
Yeah, I can see it.
Great. Now, let's start with our lesson. Kindly look at the words and let me know if there are any words that you don't understand.
I actually have some problem understanding the word. I think it's the number 8. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Okay, number 8, so that's skew.
Skew.
All right. Okay, so that's right. Do you have other questions aside from that?
No, I don't.
Okay, so since you're already familiar with all the words and phrases right there, am I right?
Yeah,
Okay,
I can.
let's have. What does that?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, now let's have our first activity, which is responding to questions. All right.
Hmm.
Now, before we start with the questions, let me give you a few tips, tricks. Now, to be able to get a high score in this part, you should answer the questions directly by giving a general statement. Of course, if possible, you have to state your ideas after and then give an explanation or an example. And of course, you have to add linking words to increase cohesion and connecting ideas. Now, being off topic is a no no here, so you should avoid it. And of course, you have to answer in full or complete sentences. Okay?
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah, I am ready.
Great. And by the way, tricks, we have here three questions. Okay. The first two, you should answer them in 15 seconds. And the third one is for 30 seconds. Okay.
Okay.
Let's start. Now, where do you usually get the news and how often do you check this news source?
I usually get the news by scrolling through Facebook and Instagram, and I besides that I also search news on the internet, but I don't usually check the news source.
All right, thanks for that. Now, your answer is 20 seconds. All right, so that's a little over 5 seconds, but that's okay. All right, now, Trix, your answer is actually pretty good. I just noticed one introductory word. Okay,
Hmm.
you said that besides that, right?
Yes.
Okay, instead of saying that, you can say besides or aside from that instead.
All right.
Okay, you don't have to add that after. Okay,
Mhm. So do I need to answer again?
you can try that sentence having that word. Can you do it?
Okay. Usually, I get the news from Facebook. I read the news by scrolling through the posts that my friends or the fan pages that I follow on Facebook. Besides, I also search for news on the internet. However, I don't usually check the news source because I'm not really used to it.
Okay, thanks for that. All right, so by the way, Tricks, before I forget, I think I've. Okay, before I almost forgot, you have to make use of the vocabs, all right, and your answers as well.
Mhm.
Is that okay?
Okay, so
All
maybe
right.
I'm gonna add the reasons why I need to get the news because I want to keep myself up to date and I want to be amazed by the things that happen all around the world.
Okay, that's better. Thanks for that. Now let's go to the next one. What type of news is most interesting to you and why?
I think that the news that are most interesting to me are news that are related to science or technology or uh, sta- the political things that are happening around the world. For example, today I read about Shakira divorcing PK because he had an affair, and I think that kind of news is really um, interesting. That's it.
Okay, okay, thanks for that. Actually, your answer is a bit longer this time. That's 30 seconds. I think it's because you've mentioned Shakira as an example too, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so thank you. Now, here, let's go to the next. What's the most impressive news story that you have seen or heard recently? Now, to describe this news story, you have 30 seconds.
And I can start right now, right?
Yep.
Okay. So the most impressive news, as I mentioned before, is that Shakira has divorced PK because he had an affair. And I think that this is a really shocking and impressive news because they have been married for some time now and they were really on good terms with each other. And I really thought that they were a really great couple. And because of this news, when I first heard this news, I didn't know how to react. I just felt really sad. And I hope that Shakira will find someone better this time.
Okay, thank you. All right, your answer is 52 seconds. All right, so that's longer than expected. I think it's because you have a lot of ideas in mind that sometimes you don't know if, I mean, you don't know how to summarize your points, or you still would like to add some explanations and examples, right?
Yes, maybe.
Okay, so maybe next time to see to it to make sure that your answers are just right within the time limit, maybe you could just make use of an explanation or an example, not end. All right, so maybe either of the two.
Okay.
Okay, and a while ago, I think you've mentioned something like they were really on good terms. Is that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, so on good terms.
On good terms.
Okay, so are you sure with the use of your in or on, your preposition?
I think that in good terms is the right expression.
Yep. Okay. All right. So that's very good. You know how to correct your mistakes. Actually, that's just a very minimal one, but this still matters, right? It's still part of your grammar. Correct?
Okay.
Okay. So X, that's the wrong sentence. And then I wrote V, that's the corrected one. So just a minimal error. Could you please read it?
They were really in good terms, right?
Okay. Yep. All right. So thanks for that. Now, tricks, before we move on to the next activity, do you have questions about this one?
I just want you to give me an example of how I should answer the number seven question,
Mm-hmm.
like in a better way.
Okay. All right. So for this question, because there is more time for you to answer this one than the two questions above, this is actually 15 seconds more, right? So your answer should be within 4 to 5 sentences. But I think your answer was actually 5 to 6, 5 to 7,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, so maybe you can just try to fit in your ideas in those 45 sentences. Maybe to make your answers, uh, how do I say this? To make your answers a little shorter, you can use contractions. Are you familiar with them?
I don't think I am.
All right. So, for example, instead of saying I am, I will, you can say I'll, something like that. All right. So maybe that strategy would reduce just a few seconds of your exceeded time, right? So
Okay.
you could use them. And of course, you can be more conversational and you can speak faster when using contractions than trying to be so formal when completing them, right?
Okay. And I can see now in the outline an
Mm-hmm.
example answer, right? So I just want to know that why this answer is a great answer.
Okay, now this one is a great answer because you have there a general statement. It starts with something to introduce your answer, right, or your point, and then after that, that's the time you include or you expand the idea of your answer to this question. And the last one is that you describe, okay? As you can see here, we have specific numbers, right?
Hmm.
They actually support your idea and it actually supports rather your idea and general statement. So it's like okay, so it's like a 3 point answer. You have the general statement, introduce the topic first, why you're amazed by that news item, the reason why. All right. So just a little bit introduction, not to go straight into your answer. Before we get into details, you have that specific sentence as a general statement. And for the second one, expand on your general statement's idea and then put the reason why you're amazed. For example, it amazed me that firms are now developing robots capable of doing a wide range of complicated tasks. Okay, so you
Hmm.
supported your recent general statement that you've mentioned. And of course, for the latter part, you can describe it specifically by mentioning, you can say statistics, facts, or reports from reliable sources, or you can just mention report. You don't need to specify who wrote it, when,
Hmm.
or something like that. So, this is where you conclude your answer, and of course, you sum up your general statement and idea as well. So, as you can see there, we have 4 sentences, right?
Hmm.
So, that's how you can provide a better answer while speaking for 30 seconds. So, that's about 4 to 5 sentences. And it also depends on your speaking pace, okay? You
Okay.
actually don't need to speak too fast, not too slow, just in a moderate pace.
Okay. I get it now.
So, all right. So, do you have other questions aside from that?
No, not now.
Okay. All right. So, tricks, great job. Now that we're done with the first activity, let's go to the second activity, which is expressing your opinion. All right. Now, here are my tips before we get going. To get a high score in this part, you should first identify the type of question, whether it's an opinion, agreement, or preference. Now, why do you need to do that? To make sure that you can answer the question rather in a logical and coherent manner because you know what you're about to talk about or what you're about to say. You classified what type of question it is at first. And of course, there should be the three parts of logic. You have the introduction, your main body, and your conclusion. And of course, if you think of your opinion and 3 points when preparing for this topic, in your introduction, you have to give whether you agree or disagree with the statement. That's your opinion, and then of course give 3 points briefly to support your opinion. Okay, that's for your introduction, and for your main body, you have to repeat the points you've given, the 3 points, and always link your point and reasons to the topic so you will avoid being off topic. And in your conclusion, you have to restate your opinion, restate your three main points. Just like summarizing and reiterating what you've just mentioned. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So, do you have questions before we start?
I don't think I do.
All right. So, for this one, you can speak for about 1 to 2 minutes. All right.
Okay.
Okay, now here for this question, this this one is the question. Do you think everything you read in the newspaper is true? Why or why not?
And I will start answering now, right?
Yep.
Okay. Um, from my perspective, I think I do believe that everything in newspapers are not totally true. The first reason is that normally publishers would like more people to read the news, so they have the tendency to exaggerate the true stories in order to get the stories more interesting and attracting. So they tend to add some more information or um, some more details that are not true to make it more interesting. And the next reason is because usually authors only write stories according to their opinions. So um, the news will be subjective and not really and cannot really depict the whole picture, the whole story. And the last reason is because um, sometimes the stories can change over time. So I think it's better to wait until everybody have raised their opinions and we can gather every proofs and every perspectives of the story to conclude. So in conclusion, normally I do not believe everything in newspapers. That's it.
Okay, thanks for that. So that's a minute and 56 seconds. Good job. All
Thank
right,
you.
now tricks. I agree with the points that you've mentioned earlier, and I like that your answer is lengthy and you did not exceed within our time limit. So that's pretty good compared to the three questions where you actually spoke for more than the seconds required, right?
Hmm.
Okay. All right. So just a few corrections that we have here. I've noticed three, okay? Can you see the messages that I sent you?
Yes, I can.
Yep. First is you said and attracting. I just listed those with ellipses because they're not full sentences. Okay. Your mistakes are not actually the whole sentences, so just a few parts. So instead of saying attracting, you could say attractive.
Attractive.
Yes, okay. Now, next is the news will be subjective, but I think you're talking about the fact or your opinion that's happening now, not will just happen in the future, right?
Hmm.
So, oh, should be the news is subjective. Sorry, I typed it wrong. That should be okay. Let me type it again. All right, here so should be is. The news is subjective and not are. All right, can you please
Okay.
read it?
The news is subjective.
All right, and okay. Lastly, you said everybody have raced, correct?
Hmm. Hmm.
That should be everybody has raced because we're talking about everybody, so that's taken as singular.
Hmm.
Okay. All right.
Uh,
Now, do you have questions regarding my corrections tricks?
Actually, I don't.
Okay. All right. Now, I've noticed that I think you've mentioned interesting for a couple of times. Am I right?
Hmm.
Okay. So you said interesting for a couple of times. So what other adjectives can you make use of instead of just overusing interesting? Maybe you could say
I really
captivate,
can't think of anything
captivating.
right now. Oh,
All right.
captivating,
Yeah. You could also say enticing, maybe, right?
enticing, right?
Okay. Yep. All right. Now, my tip for you, so as in order for you not to overuse certain adjectives or certain words in your answers, so you will not sound like someone who has limited vocabulary, if you know that, for example, you are using these sets of words occasionally, try to at least be familiar with two to three synonyms, right?
Hmm.
To make use in your other sentences. So just about that. And yep, that's it, I think. Do you have questions about that?
I do not have any questions.
All right. Okay. Now, tricks were done with all the parts of this TOEIC class. Now, let me give you my tips now. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So, here, tricks. We talked about military conflict, keep someone up to date, amazed, firm, purchase, complicated, publish, skew, depict, and perspective. These are the vocabs that I've introduced to you a while ago. And I think you only made use of a few of them. Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay, so just for you to be familiar, in terms of using it, could you please try to use military conflict in a sentence?
Mm, military conflict, right?
Yeah.
I think that the military conflict between Russia and Ukraine is putting the world in an economic crisis.
Okay, thank you. All right, now, chicks, can you say this word again, please? Economic.
Economic.
Okay, thank you. All right, and maybe you can still have one more. All right, so you've used keep someone up to date and amazed, so that's good. What about skew?
Skewed.
Yep, can you try it?
News Online news is usually skewed in order to get more people to read them.
Okay, all right, so thanks for that. Now, why did I ask you to make sentences using those words? Because those are actually not found in your answers a while ago, but when you practice using those words in your sentences, you might just find yourself one day using them when you most need them, right?
Yeah.
So, just to practice those words, using them in your sentences. And before I give you my feedback, Tricks, do you have questions?
No, I don't.
Okay. All right. Now I'll give you my feedback. Actually, we have four parts here. We have pronunciation, lexical resource or your vocabulary, and we have grammar, right? We also have fluency and coherence. Okay, now let's start with pronunciation. Now, your pronunciation is actually pretty good, Tricks. I think we only pronounced two words, right? Twice. That's economic and the skew, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so in terms of pronunciation, you can pronounce words clearly, and it's good that you have knowledge about intonation. Okay,
Thank you.
all right. Now, here, okay, here. Sometimes I notice that you're not that consistent in terms of your speaking tone. All right. Maybe
Uh-huh.
sometimes you sound confident, sometimes you sound like you're a little bit hesitant on how to proceed with the other ideas, not because you're not sure what to say, but because you're not sure how to fit all of them in the seconds, required seconds, because you have a lot to say, but you only have limited time to say them. Am I right?
Maybe.
Okay, so okay, there you go. But I those inconsistencies are just very minimal, and this is what you have to do, Tricks. All right, so there, let me type it. Okay, here you have to make use of the proper stops and pauses plus the correct rising and falling intonation so you will not sound monotonous. So your voice will not be like this, but like this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right, so that's about it. Actually, you have knowledge about intonation, but just be careful and just be consistent with the stops and pauses as well as with your rising and falling intonation. And I have a formula here for you. Correct pitch plus tone plus emphasis. For example, on the words and phrases or ideas that you want to emphasize to your listener, these will provide a correct and beautiful variation in your speaking tone. Okay,
Okay.
now let's go to the vocab part. All right, now you used appropriate vocabulary and you made use of paraphrasing effectively when you have similar points but you want to say them in a different manner since the questions are different, right? And also, you don't have a limited vocabulary. Actually, you have a good range of vocabulary. It's just that sometimes you tend to repeat, right? You tend to
Mm-hmm.
repeat a few adjectives. Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay. As I've mentioned a while ago, you can try to be familiar, right? You can familiarize yourself with the how do I
Synonyms.
yep, the synonyms. All right, and you can also make use of idioms and collocations as well as slang words and phrases to better improve your vocab. All right, and of course collocations as well, and phrasal verbs and slang words and phrases. Okay, and
Okay.
in terms of grammar tricks, what I like about you is that you are really mindful of the subject verb agreement in your sentences. Okay, and here, all right, here. You are actually mindful of the subject verb agreement in your sentences, and they're correct. And you can construct both simple and compound sentences, but most of your grammar verb tenses are repetitive. Your sentences are mostly only simple and compound ones. Try to make more complex sentences, especially for those questions like the last question that I asked you. And you can also make use of those connectives to not to overuse and or but. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, and of course, as same with the sentences that I sent you a while ago, your grammar mistakes are just very minimal. Just be careful with is and are, has and have, and when to use your adjectives and when to use the words that end with ing. Okay, tricks?
Yeah. Okay.
All right. And what else? Okay, so in terms of fluency, you can give direct answers and you can provide specific examples and explanations. So that's very good. All right.
Okay.
So, yeah. Those are my comments, tricks. Do you have questions before we end?
mm, I don't have any questions, and thank you so much for instructing me.
All right, you're welcome, Trix. Thank you so much for attending my class, and I hope to see you soon. Consistent practice, and you will surely make it. Just remember that consistent practice makes progress. And here in B2, we will help you speak with clarity, confidence, and freedom. Hope to see you again in my class. Take care. Bye bye.
Okay. Goodbye. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.